Welcome back to the M2 podcast. Thanks for tuning in. This is the show where we cover esports and personalities, gaming industry related news, new and upcoming games, and technology innovation. My name is Michael Anthony. My co-host, Mr. KyleHeath. How you doing, Kyle? What have you been up to this last week?
Oh, jumping right in. I like it. I like it.
Not even wasting time, dude.
You understand? So did I play any games this last week? That's a
That's
good
the question.
question. That's a good question, huh? Very good question. I tried to fix PS2 this last week. Unsuccessful, unfortunately.
That's a
Um,
shame.
I think it's probably the laser though. I probably will end up needing to buy a new laser to fix the disk drive because that's the only thing broken about it. However, I replaced the clock battery in it, cleaned it all out, so they at
Nice.
least got that far. It's saving time now when I turn it off and on. So good news there. Um, but yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think if I played anything. I don't. It's funny. Like, I think most of this past week, it was kind of just like either working on trying to fix that PlayStation 2 or like maybe hopping on like Splinter Cell on the Game Boy every now and again.
Oh, Sam.
Because I did Splinter Cell. I bought Splinter Cell on the Game Boy like weeks ago. And so I was getting around to playing it, and it's very interesting. It has a lot of like I turn when you immediately start it, some of the music is like it's like right from the game, so it's just like it actually sounds good too on like a Game Boy SP. So
Nice.
I was literally just sitting on the main menu for like 5 minutes, just like jamming to the music. But I don't know. Yeah, it's of course on a Game Boy, it's just a platformer, like pretty much every single Game Boy game. Um, but yeah, I don't know. It's still a lot of fun. I think they have interesting creative ways of doing like night vision and thermal and when you're like looking essentially with like binoculars and stuff, it gives you the ability to like look through the whole level, so you can like kind of like pan the screen like where you can't see Sam Fisher but like you see the whole level, which is pretty cool. Kind of gives you an
That's pretty
idea.
cool. Yeah.
um yeah, it's like like there's even equipment and stuff like that. Like I was like playing around with some of like the grenades and whatnot, and like some of the mechanics of throwing them is a little like weird, but and like sometimes like I'll go to throw it and it'll hit like the pixel above the box, so it just bounces back because it thinks that it's the box. It's just like stuff like that, which I thought was funny. But I mean, overall, it's a nice little handheld game. But yeah, since since I got this joint working with a
Showing
nice
it
little
off. Let's go.
backlight. Oh, you can't even tell because
Sick.
of the other light. But yeah, um, yeah, since I got the backlight working, it's like I want to play this again. I'm like started taking it around with me. And it's good times, man. Battery's still strong in it. I didn't have to replace it, thankfully, so that's pretty good. But yeah, that was a little bit of that was like all I really played other than trying to fix the PS2 because once I get that PS2 working, I have a nice fresh copy of GTA Vice City waiting for me to
Oh,
play.
yeah.
Um,
That's
yeah,
you haven't played that, right?
it's one of the few
That's
GTAs
the
I have
one.
not played. I
I
haven't
remember
played
you
that
saying
in
that.
San Andreas. Those are like and obviously
They're
like
both
I
amazing
mean
too.
if you want to count like GTA 3 and all that in there, I haven't tried those either.
Mhm.
Um, I was thinking about actually picking up like a PS1 copy of like GTA or something like that just to see like the OG. 'Cause I think it was like top down back then or something. It was really really weird. It wasn't like
It was top down. It was a lot of fun though.
yeah.
Like I remember spending like countless hours at my sister's house because she had that. She's like way older than I was and
Yeah.
had like the whole setup, and that was her game to play.
Mm.
So going over there and playing it was a lot of fun. It's like total throwbacks of what gaming used to be.
Yeah, for real. But yeah, so I mean, I really want to get that disk drive working so I can like sit there and play some Vice City. I also got the original Max Payne, even though I played that on PC. And it's just like, but that's one of my favorite games like of all time. Like one of my favorite like series of all time, honestly, is Max Payne because I loved 1, 2, and then when 3 came out, it was underrated. I think it was like one of the Rockstar's better games. And it was essentially like, if you want to get technical, it was kind of like a test flight for how shooting was going to work in GTA 5. Anyways, I digress. But that's like an interesting kind of like thing there. But yeah, dude, I have a lot of games I want to try out, but I think ultimately, as I mentioned before, I'm gonna eventually get a nice big hard drive and just like load it up with some games and just turn that thing into an emulator. So no disc required. So
Exactly. Yeah.
that's the end goal. But I at least want to
All
get like a
legally.
functioning. Yeah, promise. But yeah, I at least want to get like a functioning like disk drive first, so I can just have a working PS2, so I can get games and whatnot. I also want to get some. I don't have any PS1 games in the moment, but I'm gonna look to pick some up hopefully soon. Just to like
Try
at least test out like some of like the make sure like CD games work, like CD based games, because like the laser kind of it actually has like two different like potentiometers and two different kind of
mhm.
lasers for each one. So sometimes the CD one works and the DVD one doesn't. So all I have is DVD games to test. So I haven't been able to test the CD one, but gonna get a PS1 game soon.
You should try going to like a Goodwill and see if you can find any of those games there. And if you can find some PlayStation games, I would recommend obviously the Tony Hawk games,
Yeah.
and also I think Spyro. Yeah,
Yeah, I
Spyro
want to
would
get
probably be a really
Spyro.
good one.
Spyro's on my
Yeah.
list. I want to get Metal Gear Solid, the first one, if I can
Oh
like
yeah.
find out in the wild.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'd love to get that Spyro. I'd love to get Silent Hill because I loved Silent Hill 1 tremendously. I played it on an emulator.
Mhm.
That game is so much fun. And it's not really like I say it like it's like a kid game, but like it's very like ahead of its time. I feel like, especially in like
Yeah.
survival horror. So I want to get a copy of that. That is a relatively expensive game from what I've seen. So it's
Yeah.
going to be hard to find out in the wild. It's
It's super hard to find. They don't really exist anymore.
yeah, but yeah, I mean that'd be like an end goal game. I'd love to get that on disc, but yeah, dude, I have a lot of games I'm looking at, so yeah, could be pretty fun. But it's one of those things I want to build up slowly over time. I definitely don't want to drop like hundreds of dollars on games. Like I just want to kind of build it up as a slow collection.
Yeah, collecting old school games is definitely on the rise, I think, across the board. I keep seeing more and more things just like as simple as CRTVs, because you need those old TVs to get the true like experience out of the retro gaming. And that includes
Right?
like the
Yeah.
Xbox, PlayStation 2, PlayStation 1, and all that kind of stuff. And 64, obviously. Because upscaling doesn't really work like you have to do a lot of hardware modding and like buy expensive adapters, and
Yeah.
you gotta hope that your equipment actually works. So it's a challenge, but it's on the rise overall, I think. I think more and more people are trying to go back to what gaming used to be, and I think that's kind of says a lot about AAA studios in like 2023, you know, not grabbing the attention of old
Yeah.
gamers.
Yeah, pretty much, man. Yeah. In terms of my week, that was all I really did. Did you game more than me, Mike?
I think I did. I think I did.
Love
Um,
that.
I gamed. This is probably going to be the one update I give you where I'm like, I've been jumping around from game to game to game, right? So it's like I've talked several times about on the podcast about how I want to finish my like laundry list of games.
Yeah.
So it's like I want to be Cyberpunk 2077, and I've been trying to like sit down and do like an hour or 2 hours here and there whenever I can. Like if I'm at my computer, that's the game that I try to play at the computer.
Yeah.
It's a little bit more demanding outside the console. Um, One of the things I got a gift from Milady. Check this sucker out, bro. I am
Oh
holding,
my
for the people that are only
gosh.
listening, this is the Zelda Breath of the Wild collector's edition. Maybe we should create like a YouTube short out of unpacking this on the pod.
That'd be pretty sick.
Just a thought. I don't think we have enough time to do it for this episode, but there's a lot of cool stuff in there. Uh, let's place that down. So it's like she got me that, and I'm like, okay, well, I haven't beaten the first game yet, so like usually I'll watch videos or TV when I'm getting ready for bed, and I was just like, dude, why don't I just grab the Switch and start trying to play Breath of the Wild? So I've like done that.
Yeah.
I think I'm on my four, what's it called? It's like a rune or whatever. Like, have you played Breath of the Wild?
Like an hour. So I
Okay,
can't help with the department of namings probably.
you have to go to like 4 different tunnels, basically.
Yeah.
Not tunnels, but
Like
like
a
caves
temple.
or whatever.
Something like that.
Yeah, it's like a temple. Yeah, I don't know if they call it a temple in the
A
game.
shrine.
I
I don't know
feel
what they call it.
sounds right. But basically, I think I'm on the last one that you have to do before like the story progresses even further.
Yeah.
And I think the whole purpose of it is to get like base mechanics, get base starting abilities, and then from there it like really starts to develop and go deep into the story. So that's where I'm at with that game. Cyberpunk 2077 is like there's so much stuff going on that I can't even describe it right now. But the big thing that I've been picking up is now I'm doing like Tuesday night is like game night with my friends. So like the buddies that I've known since I was like 15, because
Yeah.
we used to game
Yeah.
together growing up. We're like, dude, we have the internet. Let's play games that we can all collectively enjoy. So we downloaded 3 games last night. Yeah, we downloaded 3 games last night. The first one we played was Wu Long Fallen Dynasty. Have you heard of this?
I think I have actually, yeah.
Dude, it is wild. It is so hard though. The problem with it is like we got it because it's cross-platform, and well, that game not cross-platform, but it's like the goal is try to get us all playing at the same time. And the way to unlock co-op in that game is you have to actually beat the boss, and the boss is like super hard, and I can't figure it out. So we spent like 2.5 hours to 3 hours, and only one of us got it last night. And so we're like, dang, we gotta try like keep doing it so we can get ready for next week. And the other guy messaged us and he goes, yeah, so I took a break during like work and I was able to finally beat the boss. I was like, dang, now I'm the last person I have to get it. So we did get frustrated with that and then switched over to Gang Beasts, which is like
Gang Beasts.
similar to like Human Fall Flat, right?
Yeah.
Like fighting boxing. Yeah, we played that for a bit. That was fun. And then we switched over to like finish off the night doing totally reliable delivery service. I'm looking to the right for people that are watching the video. Like I'm looking to the right to look at my list on my Xbox profile. Yeah, total like reliable delivery service. They're all kind of like in the same wonky, goofy mechanics wise, like trying to do objectives and like arcadey. I don't even like it's a fun little kid game, I guess.
Right, yeah.
And you can just make the game what you want. Like what kind of experience do you want to have? Like I want to have a bunch of my friends and we want to act goofy and stupid. Okay, this is the game for you. And
Sounds sick.
Yeah, it was a good switch up because I was definitely ready to throw my controller, break everything after Wulong, not being able to beat that boss. Dude, I tried like 50 times at least, and I couldn't figure it out. So they gave me tips on how they beat it. So I'm feeling confident for later tonight when we get done recording. I'll load it up and try to beat it.
Nice.
But, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't even mention it in my update too. I went to like this local game shop. It's kind of local, like mom and pop. They had like a bunch of NES games, and I bought Bugs Bunny's Birthday Blowout on the NES. And like it was a game I had, it's a game my dad had when we were younger, and I played it, so like nostalgic. It's kind of like a bad game, like in hindsight. But like I went to try and load it up, and like it just like it wouldn't work. And then I tried to load like Mario in, and that wouldn't work either. Even though my NES was working just fine like a week ago, so I don't know what happened. But I'm probably another one I have to open up. But yeah. Anyways, I tried to play that, but unfortunately my NES was not cooperating. So hopefully I can get that fixed.
Yeah, hopefully so. Hopefully, like you think it's the NES and not the game itself?
I think so. I mean, because I feel like when I put in the game I know works, and it just like flat out didn't, and like I was like trying to play with the video cords and everything, I was just like getting like just like either weird colors or like no picture, and it was just like it was like between games. It was weird. So I don't know. Yeah, NES. I don't know. Well, I digress.
You can always fix it later if you want to. You're on that mission anyway about your PlayStation 1 or PlayStation 2.
It would be easier to fix than PlayStation. Oh.
Speaking of PlayStation, let's get into the first article, shall we?
Ladies and gentlemen, it is that time. It is that time.
Well, what an intro.
We heard rumors, right?
We did last episode?
Yeah, we heard rumors. PlayStation Showcase right on the horizon. We're just, 3 weeks out from Summer Games Fest, Mike? We're that close. Yes. We're that close. What would be perfect since PlayStation isn't having their own showcase during Summer Games Fest? Well, if they could just come in, swoop in a week before, and show us a thing or two, So that's what PlayStation is in fact doing. They announced a showcase for next week. PlayStation Showcase will air next week, ostensibly serving as the publisher's big summer showcase. It airs on Wednesday, May 24th at 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern. Mark those calendars. A PlayStation blog post states the event will run a little over an hour. Oh, see, when I hear that gets me hyped, Mike. You know what I'm saying? I feel like we get these showcases all the time. They're like, it'll be 30 minutes. 45 minutes, just indie games. Like we get that all the time.
Yeah.
Oh, baby. This is going to run a little over an hour, and it's going to feature new titles for PS5 and PSVR 2. In addition to showcasing first-party PlayStation Studio titles, the event will also highlight third-party and indie games. So, the whole wide array that is the gaming ecosystem is going to be on display at this event. This means it's time to put on your speculation hats. It's likely we'll see Insomniac's Marvel Spider-Man 2 at the show, given it's releasing this fall. And we've yet to see gameplay of it. Some may say red flag, right? But we're a few months out here, seemingly no gameplay. Maybe we'll be wowed next week, Mike. I don't know. Um,
Don't count your chickens, right?
um, there's also a slim chance that Wolverine can make an appearance. Naughty Dog could also provide an update on its Last of Us multiplayer title, which I'm probably most excited for
I,
out of all this.
me too. Me
Um,
too.
personally, we're hoping to see something about the mysterious adventure title from a recent PlayStation ad that has rumored ties to Uncharted. As for third party, it would be nice to see more of the PS5 exclusive Silent Hill 2 remake. I would second that sentiment. I would very much like to see more updates on Silent Hill 2. I mean, it's hard to think, but I
Yeah.
think like what was it, October or something like that is when we got the Silent Hill showcase. So it's already been a while. And that'll be interesting
It's
to
been long
see.
enough that we should be hearing something.
Yeah,
Like it
some
should
sort of
be
update.
expected, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, dude, yeah, Mike, there's a lot that can go on in this event. The Last of Us multiplayer title, it's we haven't heard much about it, but we still know it's like in the works. So, something I very much want to hear more about because it's pretty much like from what I gather, it's gonna be like a standalone game essentially.
Yeah,
So
that's what they ended up saying. I think through I don't think they said it directly. I think that's what all the rumors were on Twitter. And it was always like an established source within the know-how of Naughty Dog says that it will be a standalone game kind of thing.
yeah,
You
yeah,
know?
yeah.
It was one of those kind of hits.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, I'm curious. I mean, Spider-Man 2, Spider-Man 1, the original Spider-Man that came out on the PS4. It's
That was
one
cool.
of my favorite games for the that came out on the PS4 probably. That game was so
Same.
good. It was a Spider-Man game done right, like slinging
It
webs. It
was.
felt so good. I don't know, just everything.
Flying like not flying, but like swinging around the city was just it
Dude,
was
yeah.
euphoria. I would
It's
just do
like
that alone.
no. It's like no game had touched it yet, right? So,
Hmm.
yeah, it felt really good. Very excited for 2. I haven't played Miles Morales, but that's on my list. I'm pretty sure it's on PC at this point though, or if it's not, it's coming out. So, I definitely need to check that on PC. But yeah, that's the second, I guess the second entry, but this is going to be following the first one. So, very much excited for that. And yeah, I mean, I think this article took out most of what I want, what I'm kind of looking forward to out of a PlayStation showcase. But I think just the fact that this is going to be before Summer Games Fest and before like the initial, this is like in the hype phase. I think it's really
Yeah.
going to play to PlayStation's benefit that they're doing it earlier. So, dude, good on PlayStation. I think, assuming it's a good showcase, they were very strategic with this one.
I fully expect to be like wowed by graphics. If they do the remakes and stuff like that, like just remaster remakes, which Sony seems to be doing, I do expect like a lot of wows, like pretty graphics and stuff. The one that I actually forgot about that you mentioned and in this article is the Wolverine game. I haven't like the Wolverine games. I don't know how people feel about them overall, but I've always had a very positive experience with them. I really enjoyed them. Um, I think well, even even how bad that movie was, like it wasn't the Wolverine. I pretty much like all the Wolverines. I think I just like Hugh Jackman. So to play as that character in a video game was so much fun. Um, the one
Yeah.
with the bad Deadpool that everybody didn't like.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, I didn't see Logan, but that was like apparently the last like, well, not the last like major Wolverine based title. I think that.
Yeah, yeah, I think yeah, it was, but I think they're coming out with another Wolverine. It's like Wolverine's one of those IPs like Batman now. You're not just gonna let it go.
Yeah, it's true.
No, it's like it's always gonna be around.
Yeah, for
I think
sure.
the game I was referring to, I believe, yeah, it was X-Men Origins Wolverine, the game. And that game was actually like pretty difficult, a lot of fun. And I'm curious what the rating was even on it in terms of success. It was positive, around 8 out of 10. So it's
There
kind of
you go.
sick.
There you go. Yeah.
I'm not alone in my belief that it was good.
Yeah, I mean, I think a Wolverine game in the current technological state that the gaming industry is in could be fire.
Hmm.
You know, they just get they could. Just,
100%, yeah.
I mean, I feel like it would be hard to get the story right. I mean, I feel like they could, they can get it pretty easily. So, assuming the story's good, I think it's gonna be a could be a smash hit. Another one for PlayStation, because Lord knows they need these first party hits. All right, Mike.
They kind of do. Kind of PlayStation. Xbox is more desperate for the first party hits, I think.
It's true.
But
It's true.
it's like PlayStation, they can at least hang their hat on God of War and like Last of Us.
True. I mean, yeah,
which
people.
it's only a matter of time until God of War's a TV series,
It's
I
true.
think.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think people also forget the success of the PS2. We're talking 150 million plus units sold. I mean, come on,
Jesus, yeah.
most of all time.
Yeah. Speaking of units sold, I know this is a sidetrack. I saw a Twitter post, I think it was by IGN, unrelated to PlayStation, so this might be like a sub-segment. Um, Tears of the Kingdom sold 10 million copies in 3 days and is the
Yep.
fastest selling game of all time, or the fastest selling game for Nintendo, which is bonkers.
Yeah,
So,
that's pretty wild. Yeah, I saw that
mhm,
article. I did not include it this week, but I certainly took note of it because yeah, it's
mhm.
pretty insane. And just given the fact that Tears of the Kingdom, like we're talking it leaked, we're talking
Yep,
like the whole game,
everything.
like it's just it was all out there, and yeah, and like just the fact that like it leaked, the whole game was out like weeks in advance, yet it still like did like insane numbers, right? So. Um,
100%, yeah.
just testament to a good game. Even though people have their gripes, 30 FPS on the Switch, they're like, come on, 30 FPS on the 2023 title. But like, yeah, I mean, it's a Switch. I mean, it's 6-year-old hardware.
It's a handheld, dude.
Yeah,
It's a
I mean,
handheld.
they're cramming it in there. You know what I'm saying? So it's like it is what it is.
One People still consider Ocarina of Time the greatest game, the best game ever made, and that is locked at 30 frames per second. And like they tried to remaster it, and you can't really.
I mean,
Can't.
yeah, I mean, it's the thing too. It's like, I mean, look, I would 30 FPS on like a PS5 or an Xbox Series X. It's like okay, like that. That's kind of like all right. Like I get it.
Yeah.
Like it's high end. And we're talking about a Switch here. I mean, especially for a title like Zelda, the how big this game is, especially compared to Breath of the Wild, running on
Hmm.
that system. I mean, I don't know. I feel like can you fault them? Because like I think it's just ultimately a hardware limitation, and it's
It
like
is.
kind of obvious. That's what it is, you know. So they can't really do anything about it given the given what the Switch is. But who knows? Maybe within the next year, Mike, we'll hear more about the Switch successor. What is going to be Nintendo's next gimmick, quote unquote, that's going to send them to the Astroverse.
For Nintendo,
Yeah, dude. What could they do next, Mike? We got motion controls. We got a handheld device that is now
VR,
being
VR,
a VR console, VR exclusive console. I mean,
VR exclusive.
be
If
unlike
anybody's gonna
anything.
do it right, it's gonna be Nintendo.
It's true, I guess. Yeah,
It's,
it's kind of
they're innovators. They always have been.
yeah. You know, it's kind of crazy too. Like they were so ahead of the handhelds, and now handhelds are like coming back, and so it's like to
They're
the
ahead of
point
the
where like
curve every time,
it's
dude.
literally just PCs in your hands now. Like you got a Steam Deck. That's mini
Yeah,
PC. Load up an emulator. It's more than just a Steam
Aces
Deck. You
Rogue.
know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, we've talked so much about handhelds on this podcast that it's like I we need to start looking for deals, man. We got to start doing reviews
True.
because
Honestly,
that would
it's
actually be
true.
a lot of fun.
Yeah. I mean,
Um,
dude. Yeah. I mean, it's gonna get to the point where eventually I'm probably gonna end up like looking to get like a comfortable handheld at some point. It's
I've
like
been thinking
decent.
about it too, to be honest. The Steam Deck just looks almost too good to pass up after all these games are coming out, and like more and more people keep saying it's like it's getting more and more optimized. It's like open source in a way, and like they're figuring out how to have all these different games on it. It's like, I mean, it's basically like a really good computer in your pocket, in your
Pretty
back
much,
in your
dude.
backpack, no issues. But
It's pretty
how about we
wild out here.
continue on with our stories? What do you think?
I think so.
We
I
went
agree.
a bit of a tangent, so there's an article that Kyle pulled. It's about Blizzard. It's from Kotaku. Zach Zwazin. We've talked about him several times. I feel like at this point we have covered everybody's articles, like every writer from Kotaku or like Dextero or like any of these guys. So,
Probably.
anyways, this is this is from Zach at Kotaku. It was published Wednesday. So it is Blizzard is confident Diablo 5. Is that Roman numeral 5? 4?
Four.
Hell,
Four.
4.
Diablo 4. Yep.
I should know that. That's embarrassing. Yeah, Diablo 4 won't be broken at launch. For real this time. In parentheses. So the Overwatch 2 developer is feeling good that its next big ARPG will work come June 6th.
June
Before we
6th.
even dive into it, how
It's
do you
pretty.
even feel about this article, man?
It's pretty close. I ain't gonna lie. June 6th. I mean, it's Diablo 4. Look, Diablo fans, they've been wanting a new game. They announced this. What was it last year? Bada bing, bada
Yeah,
boom. It is almost here. I mean, like, because I remember I saw like, oh, June 2023. That's a while. That's gonna be a while. And it's 2 weeks away, Mike. So it's like, all right,
yeah,
well, we're here. Um, I think I want to say I've heard good things about the game, like in terms of like gameplay and everything from like betas. But I mean, we all know Blizzard on a multiplayer release does not have a good track record. So where do I sit in
it
terms
does
of
not.
that? Yeah, I don't know, any multiplayer release, especially like like in today's age. I think it's just quite literally a bottleneck of like networks in general and like server capacity and just like how servers are
Yeah,
run. I mean, yeah, they could probably get like more, more servers for launch and stuff like that. But that's like, I mean, that's an upfront cost that isn't justifiable considering that, the player base is going to drop significantly after the first week, more than likely. So it's like, I mean, I get why
that's a
they
good point.
don't. Yeah, I mean, I get why they don't do it, but yeah, but I mean, I've just come to expect any multiplayer release, it's gonna be really, really
No.
annoying the first week. Like, it's just how it is.
Yeah, that's basically a proven track record across the board, regardless of genres. So I definitely feel that. I think I don't know. It is kind of interesting that not Diablo developers, Blizzard is coming out and basically saying it shouldn't be broken. It won't be broken. We're gonna be fine. For real. It's like, why do you have to say it though? So I like this article because it does kind of dive into the sentiment of why they have to say something like this. So let's jump in. Um, I accidentally clicked the wrong. There's so many hyperlinks in these articles. Have you noticed that? You got me, dude.
Yeah, way too
All
many.
right, let's go. So players are more nervous than ever these days about games launching in poor states. And with the not so great history of busted Diablo launches, Blizzard knows a lot of people are worried that its upcoming, always online action RPG Diablo 4 might be the next AAA game to crash and burn on release day. But Blizzard, bless its heart, okay, so Zach's from the South, let's go, is really confident that Diablo 4's launch will be a more stable, smooth experience this time around. If you're reading Kotaku, I likely don't have to tell you about the infamous launch of Diablo 3 and its dreaded Error 37 message. I remember that actually. I don't think we covered it
Yeah, I don't
on
know.
our
I don't think we did.
podcast though. Yeah, but Diablo 3, like its upcoming sequel, also had an always online requirement, and when everyone stormed in to grab loot and kill demons, the servers collapsed. Diablo 2 Resurrected suffered similar issues at launch, and Blizzard's Overwatch 2 had anything but a smooth rollout. And in all of these issues, in all the issues players have had with recent AAA games like Star Wars Jedi Survivor and Redfall, it's clear why Blizzard is trying to convince folks it's got everything under control. Yeah, okay. So, uh, in a new interview by Eurogamer, Diablo 4 Associate Game Director Joe Piapiro, please forgive me, talked about how all the beta tests Blizzard has been running over the last few months have been the key to avoiding a disaster at launch. Every one of these betas has been transformational in terms of our understanding of our own technical capacity and what we need to do to make that a smoother launch experience in general. And the director also said it's been great. So we'll see about that, I think. All the work Blizzard is putting into Diablo 4's launch. So Blizzard told Eurogamer that before public beta testing, the company had already been doing a lot of internal testing. But while those tests can help with some errors and issues, they keep saying his last name. How do you say it?
Pierre, Pierre, I don't even know.
Pierre Poro? I
Pierre
feel like I was
Pop.
close. Pierre Poro? Please, the director, explain the real deal. Wide scale beta tests with real players are much more useful, which makes sense. You got to stress the servers
I
realistically.
think that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. He goes on to say that when you have people coming through different ISPs and coming in through different servers around the world, there's so much more data you get from that. And with each of those, we found lots of little things that happen. Like this happens with clan invitations. This happens when you join a party in a certain way. Lots of little things like that across the board. Makes sense. So the director also wanted to make it clear that tests were apparently not marketing betas or tests that are just demos to get people to buy the game and not used to actually fix anything. None of them were marketing betas. Everything has been about we need the data to make sure the launch goes smoothly. That's entirely the purpose of the beta we did. Don't you love to hear that kind of thing, man?
Love it. Love it, honestly. Um,
So should I don't think there's too much going on with this article, other than the game actually comes out June 6th, which we mentioned earlier. Early access is June 2nd, and the sort of probably invitational only, and you probably have to be a content creator. Honestly, that's the real window of marketing. I think if you nail the June 2nd and you show okay, like estimated long-term player capacity in terms of the server loads, better opportunity to market and advertise the game. But on June 6th, I mean, if everybody's on there, even people that have never played Diablo before in their lives are getting on there, it's like the game's not going to work. Remember the
yeah.
wait times for what's that Amazon RPG game?
New World? What are you talking about?
Yes. Remember
Yeah, it
those
was
wait
bad.
times were like 6 hours.
Yeah, it was bad. It's really
It's
bad.
like Amazon owns like all the servers. So it's like, come on, man.
They own AWS,
Um,
bro. I don't know what
yeah,
they want, you know?
literally.
They
So
have quite literally, next to Google, like the probably the most amount of server farms, the
yeah,
most amount of upkeep, probably any
yep,
company. I mean,
yeah.
it's
And
Amazon,
they were
man.
struggling.
And they were
And
struggling.
they were
Like,
struggling.
and you know what that means?
So
You know what that means, Mike? They have the
we're effed.
resources, but the gaming division just ain't getting them. You know what I'm saying? Like Amazon's like, oh, you want more servers, bro? That's tough. I don't know what to tell you, dude. You need to figure
It's
it
all
out.
about money, dude. Return on investment.
It ain't
You
worth
already
it.
sold the
That's what I'm
game, so
saying.
whatever.
This is what I'm saying, Mike. Most companies are like, it ain't worth it, especially when the player base is going to drop off and this is going to level out after the first week anyway. So why are we going to put forth extra cost to make sure the first week goes smooth to lead a good first impression? Why would we do that? Well, all we need is just the player base that's going to just truck it through and stick around. You know what I'm saying?
It's true.
It's unreal.
That's true. Um, just so people know that Diablo 4, although is an ARPG, sometimes those are actually a free to play game. It is not going to be free to play.
No, it is
So,
not.
nope, definitely not. So it's probably going to cost about $70, maybe more. Depends on what you get out of it, but we'll see, man. Did you get a chance to watch any of the gameplay for Diablo?
I mean, yeah, I watched a little bit of it. Diablo is not really my thing, if I'm being honest. So
Same.
like, but I
Yeah.
just looked at it and I was like, okay, it kind of looked like Diablo 3. Like better graphics, yeah. I mean, but that's very ignorant takes. I don't play Diablo, but that's just like from an outsider's perspective, that was kind of my impression. Um, I mean, I don't know, man. Look, I know obviously they mean well and they really are, try to say like, and I'm sure they are really doing tests with some of these, betas and demos are putting out to try and see, throughput and everything, but at the end of the day, it just doesn't sell me. Like, unless I hear that,
100%.
unless I hear from people like, oh yeah, I didn't have a wait time, and like, oh yeah, it was pretty smooth. Granted, I'm trying to. I think New World wasn't free to play either. You had to pay for it, and even then, it was like,
Yeah, you did.
I
It was
mean,
insane.
it was insane.
It was
Wait
like
times.
it was so hyped up though.
Yeah,
So hyped up.
it's true. Yeah,
Now
I
nobody
mean,
plays it. It's crazy.
yeah, I mean, it's true. So I mean, Diablo 4, there's always new Diablo. It's a huge IP, so there's gonna be a lot of people playing it. A lot of people trying it out, I'm sure. But yeah, man, I just a lot of people that are trying to play it, especially if it's your first Diablo, your first Blizzard title. I'm just saying, like, go. Especially, I would probably wait and see how the wait times are the first week to see whether or not you wait to
100%.
buy it or if you even try to get into it.
Yeah.
Because I mean, nothing against people, nothing against the devs. I just till I see a functioning game on the first week, I don't believe any testing in the world. Like all the testing in the world means nothing whenever it ultimately comes down to a potential cost issue, and higher ups just being like, "Nah, we'll just let them figure it out after a week." Which that, and I will disclose and fully say that is a theory. I'm not saying that is indeed the case. That is my if I had to.
If
That's
you're a
just
betting
kind of
man.
my If I'm a betting man, that's kind of my educated guess on probably what's going down with a lot of these multiplayer titles when they first launch. So.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I was actually talking to a friend of the show, Spartan Boomer. He was sending me all the updates and stuff that's been going on with Halo and how they're doing different things to bring players back, and he's like really excited. He wants it to succeed, and I'm just like, dude, I'm like a jaded Halo fan from the beginning,
Yeah.
and I don't trust anything anymore. Like, and I said to him, I was like, I feel like the term AAA developer is now a derogatory term in my my gaming viewpoint. Like as a gamer, it's like, oh yeah, it's a AAA studio. It's just like that doesn't mean anything to me anymore. Like, name a AAA studio that hasn't royally messed up in the last 5 years.
It's hard, dude.
Like,
It's
name
really hard.
one, dude.
It's really
And I
hard.
guarantee if you're thinking of a game right now, it's probably an indie dev that got bought out or turned into one.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, I would just like off the bat, I would say Naughty Dog, but then it kind of got tarnished with the PC port. And I'm not saying that's necessarily Naughty Dog's fault, but you're publishing the game. So you know what I mean? Like you gotta watch out with who you're associating with, who you're doing business with. Because when you take something like, when you take an insane studio like Naughty Dog that puts out fantastic games. When I played Last of Us Part 2, played that day one, I could tell they tested that thing. You understand, Mike? Because like there was like, I didn't run into any bugs. I don't think I did.
I think it's because it's like it's do or die, man. Like with the smaller studios, it's like it's literally do or die. If you don't get it right the first time, you're done, kid. That's it.
Yeah, there
ain't nothing left.
Especially PlayStation first party, there is a certain level of excellence like they always try to achieve. Sony always wants to make sure their like top level studios are doing their best work. And if that means like delaying the game and like making sure they test like to the ends of the earth, especially for a single player title, a linear title, arguably a linear title, which is the easiest to test, right? Because majority of the outcomes.
Play it in the studio, dude.
Just play in the studio. I mean, and granted, these bigger titles that are open world and everything. I mean, I understand much harder to test. But I mean, I'm just gonna say it, dude.
Really though?
Saints Row, Mike. I'm just gonna say it. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I mean, come on. Like, it's an open world title, yeah, sure, but like, there's just no testing at all. And you cannot convince me otherwise. They did no sort of testing. There's absolutely no reason that game should have launched the way it did. So yeah, man. Dude. I mean, it's just, I know we're getting into a tangent about bugs and not necessarily like launches due to like multiplayer server related things, but
yeah.
All right. End of the day, you can do all the testing you want, but I think for especially these multiplayer titles, the complexity is much greater. So I just go into every release thinking that there's going to be some hiccups.
That's true. I think we published last week's episode, and then that same day, I saw that viral tweet about the developer saying that it was a developer asking other developers in an open, honest conversation of like, hey, how do you guys feel about your core audience saying that the games are broken because it has a couple of bugs in it? And then there was like a big debate, and they were just like, personally, I don't think that the game's broken. If you can play it start to finish, then it's not a broken game. And then what was that guy's quote? It was perfect.
Dude, it summed it up so freaking well. I'm gonna try and say
I know I know exactly where to find it.
Oh wait, no, you know what he was talking about?
It was a music analogy.
He said listen, whenever you hear a song, right? And like the song and the mixing is terrible on it. Like, do you want to listen to like, do you think that's a good song when the mix is just completely off and like it doesn't work in any setting? You listen to your car, it doesn't work, listen to it in the studio. But like the song's done, it's start to finish. Like you can listen to it. Do you want to listen to it? No. Like you don't, because the mixing is terrible. That's with games. Like, yeah, sure, I could play it start to finish, but is it a fully fun, like, do I want to actually do that? Because the whole thing about gaming is like, it's kind of like a want, right? Like you want to play a game, you want to have this experience, especially when it's art and creativity. Like you want to experience that to its best potential. So and when it comes to a game, it's just the same thing. Like you're not going to listen if a song has a bad mix and it's not a finished song. Even though I can listen to it front to back, I wouldn't consider it finished because it's not. I mean, it's just terrible. Like, and it's not necessarily that the material's bad. It's just that the fine tuning and everything it takes to make the song actually listenable is just not done. That's kind of how it is with these games. Sure, I could play start to finish, but if it's bug ridden, my experience is bad, and I eventually stop playing. Is that a successful encounter? No. And I think, I don't know. That's a whole debate, right? And you can really go into it. But yeah, I think ultimately, especially if it's just any title, gotta have testing with it, and you gotta make sure you iron out. I'm not saying it has to be perfect, right? I was trying to remember the last. I mean, I think the last major release that was like almost flawless in terms of bugs was the last God of War.
Elden Ring.
Yeah,
I would
Elden
say
Ring. The
Elden
last.
Ring.
I mean, the last God of War was. It was after that, right? I mean, that was more recent. So
Yeah.
like you play.
Yeah,
I mean,
you're right. It
but
was
that
actually like 2 weeks after. I
yeah, it
think.
was like November,
About 2
wasn't
weeks
it?
after.
Elden
Yeah.
Ring was January, right?
Oh,
Am I thinking that?
yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it was like months apart.
Yeah, you're.
Anyway,
Dude, my bad.
it was like,
It felt like 2 weeks.
it kind of does, right? As he sips his drink.
Yeah,
So
I have no choice.
like,
After that one.
but like, yeah, I mean that was the last game that whenever I saw reviews, a bunch of people were saying like, yeah, I either didn't encounter bugs at all, or I maybe encountered like one, and like other than that, it was flawless execution all the way through. It's just it's and I hate that that's an anomaly, but it is an anomaly in today's industry. It's just like
It's gross. I think. I
it
think
hurts.
it's just gross, man. It's just gross. There's no other way to like really say it. I found the exact quote, but I was like, you know what? You actually crushed it by memory. Spot on.
Yeah.
Round of
Yeah,
applause.
look,
So-
it embedded in me, all right, Mike. And
It-
like a music
'cause it's a
analogy is
fact.
perfect for me. Yeah.
It's a fact.
Like if a song's mixed poorly, bro, you ain't gonna listen to it, even if you can front to back, you know? So why would I play a game
that's
that
it.
doesn't work front
Dude,
to back?
like a bad mixed show, if you go to concerts frequently and you don't have the right mix, you're gonna
Oh.
think the band is the worst band you've ever heard in your life.
You can
Like,
sit
that's a
there,
fact.
you can watch it from start to finish, but do you want to? You know what I mean?
Dude,
Like,
I've been to some shows where I was really trying to listen to one of my favorite artists. I forgot exactly who it was, but I remember seeing it and just being like, "Oh, it was Puddle of Mud." Oh man. And I was just like, "Oh, I love them." Like they came out with a new album and I was like, "Let's go check it out." The mix was horrendous.
Dude,
And I was
that's
like,
terrible.
"I guess I'm going to go drink." Like
But it's always one of the things like, when you can't hear like the singer or anything, that's something that annoys me. Like if it's at a metal show,
Man.
like obviously it kind of makes sense. Like they're gonna
I
make the
mean,
guitars loud, but it's like,
it's about
yeah.
energy at shows,
Yeah,
at
exactly.
metal shows.
But yeah,
It's not
like,
about
but if it's
lyrics.
like, if it's not that kind of music and I can't hear the lead singer, it's like bad. It's just like,
All right.
it's terrible.
But that actually MMORPGs leads in to our next article
Sure does.
about Amazon. I didn't even realize
Aha.
we made that many references to them. So this is actually a pretty sick story.
It is.
Let's get into it. We're a little bit behind, I think.
There we are. All right, Amazon. Everybody, Amazon is making Lord of the Rings MMO again. They say the team behind New World will be developing the new game following a canceled project several years ago. Amazon is taking another stab at making a massively multiplayer Lord of the Rings game. Today, the company announced that it is partnering with the Embracer Group, the media company that holds the IP rights to Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit, for a new open-world MMO that takes place in a persistent world set in Middle-earth. Development will be led by Amazon's Orange County studio, the same team behind the MMO New World, which launched in 2021. I was thinking about that today. It's almost 2 years since New World came out. It's kind of wild.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Came
September.
out
We're
like
approaching it. It's like August,
peak of the
September.
panty.
Yeah.
The pandy.
Yeah, the game is described as being in early stages of production with no details on a release date. It's coming to PC and consoles, according to Amazon. This will be the company's second attempt at a Lord of the Rings MMO. The first was announced in 2019 and was canceled 2 years later. And while Amazon also has the very expensive Lord of the Rings series, The Rings of Power, on Prime Video, the company says it, quote, is unrelated to this upcoming MMO game in development by Amazon Games.
To be honest, that's a good thing.
I was gonna say I didn't hear the best thing about Rings of Power, so
Did you watch it?
no, I didn't.
Okay. I did. It's, do you know anything about the story of the Lord of the Rings and the lore?
I don't want to piss you off, Mike. Do I answer
Well,
truthfully?
It's okay. Like, dude, Lord of the Rings is kind of one of those mainstream niche style IPs, so it's not that big of a deal.
Well, I haven't seen
Now,
any
if you
of the
told
movies
me
or read the books.
you never saw if you're telling that's we did talk about this on the pod. You gotta go watch the movies, dude. You gotta go watch the movies.
Oh,
If they own like Lord of the Rings, it's got to be on Amazon Prime, and I know you got Prime.
I do.
I
got
know
Prime.
this for a fact. So
I do.
just look at Prime Video, see if you can watch it. Watch
Full
it tonight.
Crown.
Watch it tonight,
Full
dude.
Crown, dude.
It still holds up,
Dude.
even like 20 years later.
Yeah, check it out.
Overall, they took a lot of liberties in the character development, and it didn't coincide with the not historical references, but the references of the characters from the books. All that said, I enjoyed it, but it was trashy writing, and it was very, very painful to watch that. Like, I literally would be like, okay, let's watch Rings of Power because I think it came out on Monday or like Wednesday, one of the two, and then I would watch um, House of the Dragon uh, with
Oh,
HBO's House of the Dragon,
yeah.
or the was it? Help me, help me
Dude,
here.
dude, why is this in my mind too?
House of the Dragon. What?
Game of Thrones. Why?
House of,
Jeez.
oh, I almost said House of Cards. Yeah, Game of Thrones. They're all about the same. Yeah, so that whole setup was like night and day. It was like
No.
House of the Dragon, amazing writing, and then Lord of the Rings, trash.
Oh,
But I mean, it was entertaining. It did its job. But I'm excited for the MMO. MMO though.
true.
I'm big on Lord of the Rings games.
Yeah. I'll finish out the
Big
rest
on
of
it.
the article. We got 2 paragraphs
Please.
left. Finish it out. This news comes as Amazon continues to push further into video games, particularly when it comes to publishing. In addition to developing New World, the company has also published Smilegate's Diablo-style title Lost Ark, and is partnering with Bandai Namco on the upcoming online world Blue Protocol. Meanwhile, last year, Amazon announced a deal with Crystal Dynamics to publish the next Tomb Raider game. Like Lord of the Rings, Tomb Raider is another one of the many properties under the Embracer umbrella. It's a surprisingly busy time for gaming in Middle-earth. EA just launched the mobile title Heroes of Middle-earth, while the action-adventure game Gollum is due out this year. Widow Workshop, the special effects house behind Lord of the Rings movies, is also making a game set in the fantasy universe. Meanwhile, the original Middle-earth MMO, Lord of the Rings Online, is still chugging along. We mentioned this before on the show, but there is multiple titles under the Lord of the Rings universe that is on the way. So, dude.
What did we say? I think we had that title of the podcast episode like this is like the year of Lord of the Rings or something.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah,
because it basically was like
I mean, there's so
Rings
many
of Power
titles.
came out and so many titles got announced. I'm looking forward to it. I really like the Tomb Raider series. I hope it holds up to whatever they're trying to do for the next series.
I was gonna say, yeah, that's I'm excited for that because it's Tomb Raider. And I mentioned see if they what they do with it. Sure.
Yeah. You know the Gollum game that for people that don't know is the Lord of the Rings story from the books and the movie series from Gollum's perspective. I thought it was going to be like completely trash, but
Yeah.
everything I've seen and heard about it, it's like supposed to be really good. So hopefully that's another one of those games that's looking pretty solid, highly anticipated. So
yeah, yeah, I mean for sure. I think the MMO will be interesting. I mean, it's Lord of the Rings, so if you love Lord of the Rings, I mean MMOs are they're hard to make, right? So it's very much I don't know. I think it comes down to like it's I don't. It's so there's no other way to say it. It's just difficult to make a modern MMO, I think, and it's
yeah.
I mean, RuneScape was like super successful, obviously, and WoW, like I mean, WoW's WoW.
I think it also has a lot to do, I think, with trends and age groups. I think.
Yeah,
and like just like what people grew up playing. I think back in the day, MMOs were like super popular. I think people still like MMOs. I just feel like they don't play it as much as they used to, whether they're busy with life or there's just like other games they'd rather play.
Yeah, that's true. Dude, it's a huge time investment too, right? I mean,
It really is.
If you're investing into an MMO, I mean, if you're an adult, it's like forget about it. It's like if you have a job, forget about it. You have a relationship, forget about it. You know what I mean? It's hard.
It is definitely. Dude, I struggle with Sea of Thieves, man. Every time you go on a journey in Sea of Thieves, it's 2-hour commitment minimum.
Yeah,
minimum.
That's true. Yeah,
and there's no pause, dude. And you play with friends, and they need your help. That's what like the MMO, like the blessing and the curse of the genre is. It's like you gotta commit to hours. You gotta like completely prepare and like do all this stuff. Like I hear all the World of Warcraft stories that people have preparing, planning everything out, setting roles, strategies. It's cool, man.
Yeah, it gets pretty crazy. Yeah, I mean, I've met some WoW grinders in my day, and I don't know the amount of commitment they have. It's like it's kind of crazy. I mean, it's like I see how much time they spend, and it's like, yeah, I certainly couldn't do that. It's having a job and everything. So, I mean, I don't know if you got that time, it could be fun. I think Honestly, I think it's like a good lesson in teamwork too. If you can like get a solid MMO, find like a Zerg or like a clan or something like that. The amount of communication, especially in raids, is ridiculous. Like if you listen into
Oh yeah,
any raids or anything like that, it really does like help on your communication skills. I think so. There's a lot of benefits to it. I think.
I can't wait until that's going to be like the first thing that you can actually put on your resume in terms of gaming.
Yeah.
You know, where it's
Yeah.
just like, yeah. I mean, I was like a clan leader. I founded a clan. I had 300 people underneath me. We go on raids of 50 people.
Yeah.
Like I had to coordinate everybody, and we had team captains, like that kind of stuff.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's coming. It's not there already. You know.
It really is. You know what else is coming?
I was
The
gonna
next
say it,
article.
dude. You took the words out of my mouth. Let's go, dude. We're on the same wavelength.
I mean, we've been doing this long enough. I feel like we're getting comfortable enough to know.
True.
That's the
It's true.
truth.
True.
But obviously, we're moving on to the next article. I'm kind of excited about this one because we don't get a chance to really talk about the older publishers. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know if we don't get a chance or it's just like they're not making as much waves because they're kind
Right.
of
Yeah.
like partnered up with other publishers. But Sega, this has come from Kotaku, Ethan Gotch. Sega sounds like it's jumping on the $70 game bandwagon. The Japanese publisher says it's looking at raising its rates. So the shift to $70 games for the next gen console has been slow but steady, and another major publisher could soon be making the jump. Sega, in its latest earnings report, that it's currently reviewing its games to see where price increases make sense, moving in the direction of 2K Games, Square Enix, and other big companies that have already adopted $70 as the new standard uh, price point for blockbuster video games. And this is a direct quote from Sega. It is in the global marketplace, AAA game titles, derogatory term, for consoles have been sold at $59.99 for many years, but titles sold at $69.99 have appeared in the last year, Sega said in a newly translated transcript of the company's April 28th earnings. And they would like to review the prices of titles that we believe are commensurate with price increases while also keeping an eye on the market conditions. How do you feel? $70.
$70 for games.
New game standard.
You know, I used to be kind of like, why are you raising the price of my games? Like, like I used to like not be a fan of it. But I don't know, man. Especially in today's like, but it's like, yeah. Especially, it also helped when I learned about the history of games, right? Because you're talking about like way back in the day, like NES cards were in today's standards like way too much money. Like,
oh yeah,
and that was just
like
for a card.
$90.
Like, yeah, I mean, it's like $90 in today's dollars, right? So I mean, I don't know. We definitely don't have it as bad then. And I get at that time it was kind of like gaming was, was kind of like it was in a it was like kind of resurrecting, right? So those prices were maybe some could argue were expected, but I think but yeah, I mean, you want to charge 10 extra dollars for a game. I mean, look, there's people out there that argue that 60 is too much for most of the titles that release nowadays, especially if it's in a broken state. I get that.
Yeah.
I don't know, I mean, you want to tack on 10 extra bucks. I mean, especially for like, I mean, there's a ton of titles I would pay 10 extra dollars for and not be mad at. And I think if developers want to start charging that, I don't know, with inflation and, the amount of time it takes to even make games nowadays, I think it's to be expected that, it's going to have to raise at some point. And I mean, $10, that's not that bad. It's not like it's like 100 or something ridiculous, So even though some would probably argue that, especially I'm sure devs would probably argue too that like, hey, $100 is probably worth it to a certain extent. but yeah, I mean, $10. I say why not, Especially I think it only makes sense. We've been at 60 since, I got into gaming, I feel like, so.
Yeah, I mean, so I was just looking it up right now. So N64 games at retail launch were $60. That's 1996, 97.
Yeah, dude.
$60. And calculating $60 USD, by the way, for anybody that's listening overseas from our perspective, obviously. $60 in USD in 1996 is equivalent to $116 today due to inflation. So when people are complaining about price, it's
Yeah,
like
no,
maybe they should raise it.
Yeah, I mean, you're paying that much for, a fourth of the bits, am I right?
Yeah. But before we go any further about like raising rates, we have to have one little like asterisk, right? When games launched back then when they were selling for $60, they had to be perfect. There
It's
was
very
no
true. There's no
there was no
updates.
online update. There
There's
was no
none.
DLC. There was nothing like that. So, you had to make sure it was right, which made sense why
See,
you would pay that much. You knew what you were getting.
it's true. It's a good
Now
point.
you don't know what you're getting, man. Now you don't
See,
know.
and this is the thing, Mike. You think if the internet didn't exist for some like unknown reason, right? You think the internet
Mm.
didn't exist, but we had today's current technology for making games. Do you think that developers, how long do you think it would take to get a game out? Because they would have no choice but to test to make sure that it works. So do you think it would increase like
No,
exorbitantly in terms of like a release window? Or do you think it would be probably the same thing? Just, they'd have to
not for
not be
like
able
four
to
or five
update.
years. No, like straight like 4 or 5 years. You
Yeah.
you probably have like a little bit of less like innovation because they're going to be recycling the same concepts over and over again,
Yeah.
like to make sure that things are fast. But I mean, like you can't afford to get it wrong, and you have to stay relevant. So like the timetable's not going to change.
Yeah, I guess
Like
so.
I just I don't know. It's hard to really be in that scenario. What do you think?
Yeah. I don't know. I think it would take longer probably for games to come out just for the simple fact that, you couldn't cut corners, right? I mean, especially with the internet nowadays, it's almost encouraged for developers to cut corners, especially by, management. So, it's like whatever, because now it's the thing of like, it's like, oh, well, if it's not in this state, all right, fine, day one patch. We'll get probably most of those fixed.
Yeah.
If we don't get that, that's fine. We can do like a patch like a month in. We could try and address that at a later date. I think that's not a showstopper. It's not a game break, kind of thing. It's not a showstopper is probably the best term. But yeah, I mean and that's just kind of how it is, right? And just like maybe just software development in general, it's kind of just like, okay, well, let's just focus on like the baseline right now, and then we'll cover the rest in an update. Um, and that's just kind of how it is. I mean, again, back then you didn't have that at all, so you had to make sure it was right. But you could also make the argument that there was the games you could make were such limited in size, and space. It probably wasn't as hard to mess up in a lot of regards. You didn't have to worry about
Sure.
multiplayer. You didn't have to worry about all these other like variables. So there's probably some merit in that, and saying like, yeah, the reason why most games probably did so well is because like there wasn't really too much to worry about, and like you did not have to focus on like a million different things when you're making a game. It's kind of just making sure it works right, and testing wasn't. I mean, testing was extensive, but it wasn't nearly as much as you would need today in like a modern setting to make a good game. So
No,
there's
I
a
think
lot
I
of
think those
variables
are all
there,
like
right?
really
Um,
I think that's all like a really, really fair point. I think now I'm not a developer. I've never been in development, but I know what it's like to work in like big teams to get projects done
yeah,
on like a very large scale, months long projects, sometimes years. And the number one issue that I've always had is if there's too many cooks in the kitchen, there's too many chiefs,
yep,
there's like too many generals or whatever you want to say, where they're all pulling from different directions and they have their own vision on how something needs to be accomplished. I think projects always ran better when there was like always one person that was like, this is what we're doing. You are allowed to give your input, but give it to me directly and I will decide whether or not that's feasible and whether or not it can work.
yeah,
So that way, it really just comes down to like one direction, one linear path of completion, and there's
yeah,
a clear destination. If you have that, you can do phenomenal things, but you have to make sacrifices along the way.
yeah,
Like you might not be able to have like fantastic things in a game. But now I feel like maybe the AAA devs, they got so many employees and they got so many different teams working on different things. They're not like really communicating, especially the marketing department, advertising games that aren't real. Like we've seen that so many times. And it's like they need to all work together, and it's like just another hurdle to have. Like
yeah,
it's a like communication issue.
right,
Whereas these indie devs, it's like 5 people. They know what they want to do, and they figure it out in like
yeah,
no time flat.
yeah.
So
You know what the perfect use case for that? Because there is a modern day use case for what you're describing. And you know what that
okay.
is?
Oh no,
So, God
you're
of War.
smiling.
God of War. Sony Santa
Oh really?
Monica. So Sony Santa Monica, the way the studio works, Cory Barlog was the main creative behind it. He was the creative
Okay.
director. He oversaw all of the kind of, game aspects of the game. And he was the final say on everything. There are like multiple documentaries you can go and watch on Sony Santa Monica. It's a really interesting studio. But pretty much like a lot of the devs said, if they had any questions at all about anything design wise with the game, they would take it to Corey. They would meet with him and they'd say, what do you think of this? What do you think of this? What do you think of this? And he would tell us whether or not that stays or that goes. And he was the funnel. So they would go to him. He would make the final decisions. It was overall his vision, right? And they just they trusted everything into Corey to make sure that the game was good. And look what happened. I mean, it's like one of the best modern titles. Like, and it was because they had one person make the final decisions, and he knew exactly what he wanted. And he, I mean, obviously, he probably accepted some compromises here and there, but he just kind of said, like, yeah, this is my game. And they needed, and his vision is ultimately what led to that being one of PlayStation's most, essentially revitalizing the God of War franchise and making that, one of Sony's best-selling titles on the PS4. So, yeah, it's a perfect use case for that, and I totally agree. I think I think if studios took more, especially like single player games, you take more of a route of like, you have like there needs to be one person that can ultimately make the decision, and it's got to be someone who has knowledge and experience in the industry and knows exactly what they want. And I think if you get lucky enough to find that person, I mean, you can hit a home run, assuming you have other talent around you to kind of fill in the technological gaps and leaps that'll be needed to make something happen. So that's perfect use case for what you're saying.
I will even extend that, because we just got done talking about Nintendo. I'll extend that to like Nintendo games, right? Like their major IPs, their Zelda games, their Mario games. Those launch and it has a very clear vision on what they want. Very clear.
Yeah.
And that's got to be controlled by like one person as well, I think.
Yeah.
It's not a committee driven thing.
Yeah, I mean, I would certainly agree. I mean, I think there's there's definitely the case. I think that's probably a case of a lot of modern titles. Is there's just too many cooks, So I think if they kind of say like, I mean, obviously, a lot of meetings and everything, but like if you can find a way to kind of facilitate all that and make it so that you just have one person making a lot of the major decisions. Granted, that person has to know what they're doing. It can't just be like,
100%.
They have to know what they're looking for, kind of thing. But yeah, I mean, you find that right person. I mean, I think a lot of games could be better off. So, yeah, it's a hard find, but yeah, like you were saying that, and I was like, dude, I prepared for this. I literally saw that. I saw documentaries on that. It was very fascinating. But yeah, that's yeah. So
will you send me the documentary? Right. Is it on YouTube or is it?
I think it is. Yeah, it's on YouTube.
Okay,
it's kind of like making a God of War, I think.
Yeah, definitely send me that, because I'm basically the king of YouTube. You know this. I watch all the time, so definitely send me something.
Yeah, dude. Yeah,
so I can watch that.
Yeah, dude, I love watching like how games are made and stuff like that. Especially when it's a title like that was so successful. It's like, okay, how did they actually pull that off? Because I used to watch like Naughty Dog ones too. I think those PlayStation, Sony studios, man, they know what they're doing when it comes to especially single player titles.
I think I don't want to get too distracted, because I want to go back to this article and say like one or two things. But Black Mirror, isn't that a TV show?
Yep.
I think they had one about video games too, and it was very interesting. How it was an indie dev, basically. He created his own game in a very short amount of time, and I think it was an interactive game too. Like you would watch the show. Remember that? You would watch the show and you would choose choices, and that was part of the video game too. So like all tied together, and like people discuss like what the ending was. It was very, very like almost social experiment kind of stuff. Very interesting. But that what you just said also reminded me of like the most recent thing that I watched in terms of gaming. Also, Tetris. Is it Tetris? Yeah, Tetris movie is coming out soon.
Yeah,
that should be interesting. But we got a little sidetracked here. Let's get somewhat back to the article. Overall, Sega is trying to raise their overall prices to $70 to match basically what's becoming now an industry standard. I'm personally okay with it, because, on this article by Kotaku, they mentioned that most of the rates are actually going towards the console versions of the games. It's not really happening on PC. And I think, Kyle, you have a PC, you game on PC. That's kind of been the case forever. Like we have the best deals, but the problem is we have the biggest cost to entry.
Yeah.
You got to build or buy your PC.
It's a lot of upfront.
Yeah, it's a lot of
it's a big down payment to have the luxury of being able to spend less on actual games.
100%. It's like you can get a console now for $250 for an Xbox Series S.
Yeah.
Plus, it comes with the controller, and then you just download Game Pass, whatever. You're up and running pretty quick, because most people have a TV, right?
Yeah.
If you get a PC, it's like, yeah, you're gonna really hook that up to a TV. Now you need a monitor. How much is the monitor? $250. You know what I mean?
And then Oh, Mike, is my PC gonna work? How many issues am I gonna have trying to load games and it's gonna crash and then I'm gonna have blue screens and like
I mean, if you're buying shoddy pre-built and you're not calling your boy and asking for help, you're gonna have
That's what I'm
issues.
saying. I mean,
Okay,
yeah, I mean,
but
I mean, assuming you build it right though, you should be fine. But like even then, like you build it right,
You
you
gotta
build it
make sure it's
properly. There's still a lot of games out there that have shoddy ports, and it's like it's kind of the price you
yeah,
pay. But
it is. But I mean, you can still go to Steam and you can find like sometimes best-selling games, game of the year is a couple of years late, admittedly, but it's like $5, 5, $10. And if you have Amazon Prime, they're throwing out like brand new games here and there. You've got Game Pass. Doesn't matter what you're playing on, you can play on anything. And now
um,
PlayStation's starting to port their stuff, like you said, kind of broken, but it'll be fixed eventually. So gotta wait. Like pros and cons with your choice options. With this, you gotta pay $70 extra for a physical copy of the game to download to your hard drive, so you can only play digitally because of licensing.
yeah.
But whatever.
Oh man,
That's the reality we live in now.
dude,
But
this article just real quick. They mentioned Redfall as Microsoft's first $70 game. That's tragic, Mike. Oh, out of all the games that could have been like, yeah, let's start the $70 trend, it was Redfall.
it's on Game Pass.
It's true.
On Game
It's
Pass,
true.
though.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
It's true.
But you're
They went
right.
there.
You're right. That game, the reviews of that game were so bad. And for people that have been listening to the podcast for a while, you guys know that I have been playing Back for Blood with my boys. We were having a great time. And well, now it's kind of trash. It doesn't work. It's all broken. And
Jeez.
well, not Back for Blood, but Redfall. Now I don't want to play Redfall again or at all, even though
It's
I have
rough.
Game Pass.
It's
I'm like,
rough.
fix the game. Let me know when it fixes the game, and I'll play it. Until then, I'm not touching it. I can't give them the satisfaction it downloads. Quit launching broken games, dude. I feel like I'm boycotting like BP after the oil spill in the Gulf of Mexico. Like I'm never getting gas here again. Like
Oh,
you released a broken game, I'm never touching it again. That kind
Oh.
of crap. I don't know why I went southern, but we're out here. All right, hit us with the next article before I go way off the deep end.
It's the last one. Boy, do I
It
have
is.
some good news for Microsoft and this Activision Blizzard deal, Mike.
UK's upset. That's a fact.
Yeah, it's a fact. Ladies and gentlemen, Microsoft Activision Blizzard acquisition was approved by EU regulators. Yeah, you heard that right. Europe clears Microsoft's giant $68.7 billion deal.
Round it
69.
up. Nice.
To acquire so their deal to acquire Activision Blizzard has been approved by EU regulators just weeks after UK regulators blocked the acquisition. European Commission has concluded that the deal can pass thanks to commitments from Microsoft related to cloud gaming. We all saw the writing on the wall there whenever they were signing up 10-year deal, 10-year deal, 10-year deal to all
Everybody.
These cloud services across Oceania.
Oprah Winfrey style.
Everyone gets them, dude.
Deal.
EU found that Microsoft, quote, would have no incentive to refuse to distribute Activision's games to Sony, and that, quote, even if Microsoft did decide to withdraw Activision's games from the PlayStation, this would not significantly harm competition in the consoles market. But EU regulators, much like the UK, did find the acquisition could harm competition around the distribution of PC and console games through cloud gaming services. The European Commission has identified remedies to allow for the deal to go ahead through 10-year licensing deals that Microsoft has offered to competitors. These include a free license to consumers in EU countries that would allow them to stream via any cloud game streaming service of their choice. All current and future Activision Blizzard PC and console games that they have a license for. Cloud providers will also be offered a free license to stream these games in EU markets. These licenses are automatic and mean that consumers will have the right to stream Activision Blizzard games they've purchased or subscribed to on any cloud gaming streaming service of their choice and play them on any device using any operating system. It appears that the European Commission requested Microsoft offer this automatic license, and the Xbox maker will now apply this globally. Dang, dude. I'm just breathe in there for a second. Look at that. Just making them do it. Hey. We're down to do it.
You gotta do
Global streaming, baby.
Lock it up.
Quote, our decision represents an important step in this direction by bringing Activision's popular games to many more devices and consumers than before, thanks to cloud game streaming. Says, wish I could pronounce that name. No,
Margrethe Vestager.
Margrethe Vestager. go with that. Executive VP in charge of competition policy at the European Commission. The commitments offered by Microsoft will enable for the first time the streaming of such games in any cloud game streaming services, enhancing competition and opportunities for growth. The EU's decision to approve this giant deal came less than a month after UK regulators blocked Microsoft's plans. The UK's CMA blocked the deal over cloud gaming market concerns, stating that the acquisition could lead to reduced innovation and less choice for UK gamers over the years to come. Microsoft is appealing the decision. They have spent the past few months trying to address regulators' concerns around cloud gaming with deals. We already talked about this. You know, they're handing out these deals for cloud gaming services, Mike, to everybody. Because, you know, why not?
They really are. They were giving out to people that we haven't even heard of. Boosteroid, Ubitus, and NVIDIA we've heard of.
No.
But I mean, there were like other names other than those three right there that I was just like, who? Who?
Yeah.
And it's like,
I mean, it's probably cloud streaming services in like Asia and, you know, those markets. That I'm sure are probably banging, you know what I'm saying? But honestly, it's probably what it is. But I mean, you know, FTC, they sued to block the acquisition. So, you know, there's still some hurdles, you know what I'm saying? Not just UK.
I think the FTC is the only one that really matters because it's like the EU approved it. That is massive. EU has a lot of people there.
Yeah.
That's a lot of governing bodies. That's no joke. And honestly, like it probably would have been approved in the UK if Brexit didn't happen. So the UK saying no, kind of could see that coming, to be honest. Everything that we kept covering about how they were just like, and how desperate it seemed that Microsoft was just giving out the 10-year deals as much as possible. It was like, yeah, okay. It's like they might know something. You know what I mean?
No.
So I think it's really going to come down to the FTC. If the EU is approving it, I kind of fully expect the FTC to approve it now.
Yeah.
Just because I was expecting the EU to be the biggest hurdle for them. I thought the FTC would probably approve it eventually. Yeah. So we'll see. I mean, it's already been approved in Saudi Arabia, Brazil, Chile, Serbia, Japan, South Africa. I'm just reading this from the article, right? It's like that's not like a really big market pretty much at all for Xbox and Microsoft. It doesn't really matter. The other ones that are still pending are China, South Korea, New Zealand, and Australia, which are kind of bigger hubs for Xbox.
Yeah, for sure.
So, yeah. Japan actually being the ones that approve it because they're like, I mean, we got Sony, we got Nintendo, we don't need your crap. That's basically what their mindset is, I bet.
Much. I mean, it's I think, overall, I think it'll make sense for more people to approve it. But I mean, I'll be curious to see how the appeal goes for Microsoft on with the CMA. But yeah, I don't know. I was gonna say something else, and now I'm drawing a blank. I don't know why.
I'm sorry. I probably just talked over your thoughts.
I guess it'd be like that, you know.
It'd be like that. I'm sorry.
Oh yeah. It just came to me. Epiphany. I don't know if you saw this, Mike. I know there was in fact, I think I may have said it to you. I can't remember, but there was I think one of the I was either CEO of Microsoft or a very high up person in an interview was saying that if UK was to shoot down the deal, if UK was to shoot down Microsoft's deal, would Microsoft potentially pull out all of their games and IPs and whatnot from the UK like entirely? Yeah. And he pretty much said, well, we'll see how it shakes out. It's possible, but that's kind of what he was saying. So everyone was like turning their head like, wait a minute, what? Like there's no way you're just going to pull out like entirely from the UK. I mean, but apparently
I mean, that would be, dude, could you imagine? All right. So think about this, right? Like think about the complications of Microsoft pulling their IPs out of Europe, specifically the UK, right? What they're pulling out is one of the biggest EA franchises of all time, and that is FIFA. Could you imagine taking football out of the home of football? Dude, you know what I mean? Wild. It's over.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, dude. I don't know, but I guess that would be certainly like an option C. But I guess it's theoretically.
I don't think they're doing it.
I mean, theoretically, if they don't get the approval, it's like, all right, well, is it possible for us to is it possible for us to just pull out of your market? And then they're going to be like, I mean, I guess, but why would you? And then immediately Microsoft breaking and just that'd be insane, dude, if they just pulled out.
I That would be insane, but if you think about it, it's like they're approved in the EU, which has like I don't even know, like what 500 million people there.
Yeah.
Whoever knows how I know there's more gamers in the EU than there is the UK just by percentages, right? So it could make mathematical sense to just be like, all right, we'll just take the loss to have Activision Blizzard, you know? Like, how much more money can we
Yeah.
make on Game Pass to get everybody on the Activision Blizzard train? You
Yeah.
know,
I mean,
we talked about it before when this was first announced. I kind of want to play WoW with a Game Pass. I'm
yeah.
just saying,
Yeah, I
let me
mean,
goat it.
it's a huge
Let me
deal,
goat
right?
it. Yeah,
I think it ultimately comes down to like if they were to do something like that. I mean, I doubt it, but if they were to actually try to do something like that,
highly unlikely.
it'd very much be a business decision at that point. Is do they think that the net profit of acquiring Activision Blizzard outweighs the net loss that will come from not being in the UK? But yeah,
I
it would be insane. But I
I
don't think it's gonna happen. But I just think it was
I
funny
don't
how
think it would happen
I think
either.
it's funny how like just the higher ups are just like, well, we'll maybe kind of is pretty much what they're saying. Like, we'll see what happens, kind of thing. I think it's a corporate answer for sure, but
Oh
I
yeah,
thought it
I
was
mean,
funny.
well, the person that was also talking probably can't make those decisions and didn't even think of that would be
Yeah,
a question, right?
probably it's probably just caught
But
off guard.
hypothetically, if I'm an investing man, which I am 100% finding VPNs that are on the stock market, and I'm going hard because
It's so
VPNs are
true.
going through the
Oh
roof.
man, yo, Nord's
Holy
gonna be
crap! You're gonna have
laughing
like,
to the bank, dude.
oh my
ExpressVPN
god,
laughing to the bank, dude.
dude, is
Be insane.
Raspberry Pi on the stock market?
True, yeah. Oh man, the amount of hardware like VPNs you're
Oh,
gonna make. Oh my
spoofs and
god.
stuff. Oh my gosh. That would 100% happen. VPNs are
Oh
already on the
man.
rise just for security purposes, not just for people to like spoof their location so they can get better Netflix options.
Yeah, right.
It's like it's on the route and it's only a matter of time before it is gaming.
Yeah. I
Um,
mean, just a side note on that too. The fact that I
yeah.
see like these YouTube ads of like ExpressVPN and stuff, and like they're blatantly advertising, "Oh, I can't watch Office UK and US, so I
100%.
go to Canada." Like, I just think it's so funny. Like they're basically saying, like, "Yeah, dude, you can literally do that to spoof and watch shows you can't normally watch." Like,
100%. You can do the same thing. They were talking about like there are certain servers that you can't access. Like you can access it, but like there's like it's one of those things of like the different layers of the internet, right?
mhm,
It's like you got the deep web, you got the gray, like all
yeah,
these different types of stuff. It's like the surface level crap that everybody watches. They're like, okay, Google, Instagram, YouTube, like all the basic crap. But it's like you can go really deep if you happen to VPN. You can find some like crazy stuff.
yeah, for real.
Not just horrific, but like crazy stuff as in like just old school, really old internet, like all HTML formatting and stuff like that.
No,
It's like publicly listed. So it's like I think VPNs are on the rise just in general. And if they actually pull out of the UK, man, I mean VPNs are gonna go through the roof. Who's
it's
gonna
true,
like come on?
dude. Give me ideas, Mike. Where to shift investments. You know what I'm saying? Assuming Microsoft actually is insane. You know what I mean?
Dude,
It's
my
crazy.
investment, I think I even told you about it. One of our somebody in the gaming sphere, I don't want to say it on the pod, but somebody in the gaming sphere that creates hardware. And I told you I was like, it's gonna go up. It's gonna go up. It's like my profits, I mean, I'm looking all right. I'm looking all right. So
Yeah,
it always feels good to feel vindicated. So if I become vindicated with VPNs, I'm gonna be talking a load of crap because I'm gonna feel super smart.
there you go, man. There you go. Well, Mike, I don't think I had any more articles this week. I'm just gonna say it. You know?
No, I think we had a pretty good episode. I think the people got what they were looking for. At least I hope so. And I think it's actually time to just wrap it up. Call it quits at this point. We're well over our allotted time. You've said people, Kyle over here, my man. He said, I don't know if we have enough articles to go through and actually get like the hour we're aiming for. Bro, how far are we in?
Look, I
An
got
hour 19, dog.
Look, it's always a good time, Mike. We get on these tangents that last, 10 plus minutes at a time. All right. I
That's
always
true.
forget for some reason. You know.
It doesn't matter. I feel like it was a good episode.
It was.
But let's let the people go. Let's fill them in. If you heard, you want to see any of the articles, all the links in the description. Is your first time listening to us, watching us? We appreciate you. Thank you for tuning in. These the M2 podcast. That's really all we got to say. Socials down below. We got a Discord. What else we got? Follow the actual like Twitter. We need to start posting more, by the way. Twitter podcast dedicated channel or handle, I guess. But
No, I just want to say it here too. Maybe it'll give me some accountability. I would absolutely love to take the podcast channel on Twitter or the podcast, Twitter, and just use it more like, push out some like news every now and again, interesting articles, give our like, input, kind of like how we see all these like news channels and stuff on Twitter kind of do their thing.
We definitely need to do that because we're already doing that to each other. Like we'll see something and then send it to each other and just be like, yo, check this, check that out, check this out.
True, yeah.
I'm over here posting like 10 freaking Twitter nonsensical stuff all the time to you guys. And we should definitely just start.
Yeah, it's something I want to utilize because I've done it a little bit, like the account, like posting. But yeah, it's something I definitely want to be more consistent about. Maybe like a couple times a week, just posting an interesting story I find. Just being like, hey, insert funny quip. There you go.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. All right, so that's the plan. We're going to be more active on the Twitter. So go over there, start watching it, start following it, and reply. That'd be cool. So let's get into it. Anyways, this is the M2 podcast. This is episode 19, right? Yeah, episode 19 of season 4. We appreciate you for listening. I'm Michael Anthony, Mr. JK, KyleHeath, my man. Thank you for tuning in. We appreciate you. We'll see you next week.
Bye, everyone.
See ya.